Ladies and gentlemen, podcast listeners of all ages, are you bored with traditional and dull real estate content?
Yes!
Do you want to be entertained by the most successful, innovative, and forward-thinking industry professionals?
Yes!
Do you want to elevate your business, be challenged to take action, and raise the bar in your personal and business dojo?
Yes!
Now welcome your ninja host, Jeff Fitzer.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate and Mortgage Content Ninja podcast. And today I am very excited to bring on a guest who I have been lucky enough to get to know through Closing Table Mastermind. We've now spent a couple of sessions together. I've gotten to pick her brain. I've gotten to follow her on social media. I've gotten to watch her do some pretty amazing things with some pretty amazing people. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Keri Shull from Arlington, Virginia. Welcome to the show, my dear.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. Hey, guys.
I am honored to have you on. And so let's take a step back. You know, I'm in St. Louis. You're in the Washington, D.C., Virginia area. Tell our listener a little bit about yourself, how you got up in the business, and where you are today.
Sure. So I moved a lot as a child. If we're going all the way back, I moved 13 times before I was 18 years old and got to experience some of the joy and pain that comes in moving. So I never intended to be a real estate agent. I started out in new home sales. And fast forward, one of my mentors got me to leave new home sales with the idea of helping a man spend $50 million on real estate. So when you do the math, she said, look, I'll give you half of everything. And then in 3 years, he wants to resell. I think my calculator had an E because there's too many zeros. I'm like, oh, this is a lot of money. I'm in. 3 weeks later, that guy bought a hotel. And I woke up and I remember actually laughing out loud in my bedroom by myself because I'm like, oh my God, I got to go sell some houses. Like, I don't have a job. I'm a real estate agent. I need to sell houses to make money. So luckily for me, I fell in love with the business and I really liked working with buyers and sellers. And so what was liberating is that I actually got to help them find what they wanted. And when I was selling new homes, you know, they were coming in and it was trying to put a round peg in a square hole sometimes. So that piece of the business was really exciting. And that's kind of how I got my start, just one deal at a time. To fast forward from then to today, I went from doing 19 transactions my first year in the business.
Which was what year?
2008. Awesome year to start, right?
Tough one, yep.
So I did 19 transactions that year, 21 transactions the next year. And from 21 transactions to 365.
Stop it.
5 years. Yep. So had a pretty rapid growth story. And I attribute that to going and meeting with other real estate agents and being in the room with the right people who had already been where I wanted to go. It was incredibly inspirational for me. I saw if they can do it, I can do it. And I just started moving pretty quickly from there to accomplish that.
That is powerful. And it's funny you say that because A, we just got back from collaboration with some of the best in the business, right?
Yes.
And B, I just had Sam Karamian on the show a couple of weeks ago talking all about masterminding and how powerful it is. And you just reinforced that. If you're not listening, if you didn't miss what she just said, she's gone in 5 years from 21 transactions to 365. And today, this year, you said, you told me this off the air, you're going to do 500 transactions for over 300 million.
We are.
That's ridiculous.
I'm super excited, and I love Sam. So if you haven't listened to the episode with Sam, you got to go back and listen to that. He's incredible.
I could not agree more, and the power of collaboration. But that's powerful. So if you're a young aspiring agent, if you're an old aspiring agent, you know, going and hanging out with people, and you know, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Man, beating a dead horse on that one. So let's talk about what took you to this level, how you got there. And I know you've mentioned to me before, you know, about how to hire. So talk about, you know, kind of what precipitated, you know, what led you to where you are today.
Well, I think for agents, I just did a mastermind in Virginia with the top 1% of agents in our area. And the one question that people ask me a lot is, how do you scale? How did you grow like that? And to do that, you have to be able to leverage your time through technology and people, right? And the people part is what's the most scary for most real estate agents, because they feel like they are spending money on someone and they don't know if they can afford it a lot of the time. Now, that's true for somebody at my level. I have 48 people on my team, and it's true for someone who's a solo agent that's trying to figure out how to leverage their time and what to do next. And so what I always tell people is that you really have to change your mindset around hiring people and look at it as an investment in your business and an investment in yourself, so you can recategorize how you're spending your own time. So I always had that mindset. Now, keep in mind, I'm someone, I don't even like to be alone. Like, I love to be in a group all the time. So knowing that that's kind of my ammo and how I think about life, the idea of hiring an assistant was appealing because I got all of that time back, and appealing because suddenly I went from being a solo agent who was kind of on my own in an office where, people were not the most friendly. I was up and coming pretty quickly, and it was more of a competitive environment than a collaborative environment. So when I would make my rounds to try and figure out who I wanted to learn from, what I found, including my broker, was that there wasn't that need or desire to have connection in my office. People had it outside of the office, and in the office, you were viewed as a competitor. So I don't know if anyone can relate to that. For me, I wanted a team and I wanted to be surrounded by people. So I really focused on my weakness first, and that was picking up the phone and calling people. Mm-hmm. I knew that would never be a strength of mine. And so I had a lot of coaches that told me, no, you need to fight through that. You need to sit down and make your calls and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And if I had listened to them, maybe I'd be doing 50 transactions today and miserable. I don't know. But I didn't. I said, I believe in myself, and I'm going to invest in putting the people around me that are going to make me stronger. And so I hired first an assistant and then 3 ISAs, because I knew I was really good at generating leads, and I listened closely when I was in masterminds, and I picked people's brain from around the country, and then I executed. So my advice would be, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pay this person 30, 40, 50, 70, whatever your market, price would be, focus on what you need to pay them a month and think about your hourly rate. So that's the exercise I always encourage people to do. What is your time worth per hour? And if you hired somebody at $40,000, whatever market rate is for you, what things would you delegate to them, and how could you increase your hourly rate to pay for that investment in your business, and how long would it take? My average to start recuperating that investment is only 3 months. So if you can afford it for 3 months, you should start increasing your income to pay for that person. So if you look at it that way, you can really get comfortable with hiring a lot faster. And that's ultimately what I had to do.
So let me ask you in a different way on this topic. Were you at a certain level where you were producing X number of units per month, and you thought the only way I'm going to get to the next level is if I hire somebody? And if you don't mind me asking, what was that bogey?
So what's interesting, a lot of coaches out there, again, say once you're doing 3 deals a month, then you're ready to hire somebody. I wasn't even doing 2 deals a month. I just saw where I wanted to go and said, all right, let's move. And then I started moving, and next thing I knew, I had 25 people and we were doing over 300 transactions.
I think that takes some balls. And I feel like most humans, not just real estate agents, don't have the balls to do that. They're afraid to take that risk. And so I don't know if there's a better message. Obviously, your success speaks for itself, but I think a lot of people will look at this and be like, well, I'll never be there, right? That's just the way people think. So obviously you've done this. Now you're at a position to where you're going around the country and talking to people and grooming and teaching and educating. How do you get somebody over that hump?
I think the first thing, the 2 pieces of advice I have, and I'm going to reiterate it. Number 1, chunk it down into monthly bites, because that's not as overwhelming. On the first hire, the second hire, the 15th hire, I think of it the same way, right? And so if you're just contemplating that first hire, which is where a lot of people get stuck, it's usually about two issues. You mentioned the balls, so that's about money, right? Having the confidence that you're going to be able to continue generating enough leads to pay for the investment in people, right? But if you chunk it down into the monthly piece and you get clear about what your own hourly time is worth, if you can continue to produce, that helps you get comfortable. The second piece, which I actually think is what holds most people back, is the lack of freedom that they think will come when they have someone reporting to them, right? So all of a sudden, and I went through this personally, they're afraid, well, then I'm going to have to come into the office. And what if I don't want to? What if I want to go to brunch with my friends? Or what if I want to take a day and stay in my pajamas and watch Modern Family, right? So there's this added responsibility. But what I would say is that's perceived, not reality. Because if you hire the right person and you do a good job training that person, yes, when you're training them, there's going to be more responsibility. But all the time that they're giving you back, you're going to see the fruits of that very quickly, right? If you're able to, let's just say you're doing 20 transactions a year. Again, you're not at that 36, but you know that you're capable of generating more. If you chunk it down and look at all of the time that you spend just on the buy side on one transaction, how many hours do you spend doing that? How many hours do you spend prospecting, and how many hours do you spend on a listing? And I like to love my life. Jeff, you know this about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I focus on what do I enjoy the most first, instead of focusing on what makes me the most money. What do I love doing? And when I focus on those things, the good news for me is I love doing the things that happen to make me the most money. So when I look at delegating the rest of those things, I actually have so much more freedom and flexibility. And at every level in my business, ironically, that's been the same, right? The next level of what I would be responsible for with that next hire has always been more exciting for me.
Yeah. Wow. And now, would you say that there's a certain trick to finding the right assistant, or the right trick to training them the right way?
Yeah. I could do like a 5-hour podcast on this topic. Gary Keller has a statistic. He says 50% of the time, you're not going to get it right the first time. So I think this is something that stops people, because they might get it wrong once and they either live with wrong for a year and then convince themselves that it's not the right thing for them to have an assistant, or they really can't afford it, or whatever they convince themselves. But really it's that they got the wrong fit. And instead of being honest with themselves about the incompatibility in the position and moving on, there's guilt associated with that. And then they feel bad for the person. And so they end up dealing with it long term. And I would say you're doing both yourself and the person you hired an injustice. So be really clear. At the mastermind I was just at, someone say, listen, we're going to be dating. We're going to try it on for size for 90 days. I don't do it that way, but I can see the value when you're starting out hiring and saying, let's see how we both feel. And let's sit down in 90 days and evaluate how you're feeling about the job, how I'm feeling about your performance. And of course, we'll be talking along the way to make sure we're on the same page as well. So just giving regular feedback and delivering news when something is not going well quickly, and delivering a lot of praise in the beginning, because you want to reinforce the good behaviors. What I've found, if you don't reinforce the things that are going well, the person feels lost and they're not sure what to do more of and what to do less of. So just like when you're dating and someone brings you flowers or goes the extra mile to make you have an amazing day, they want to feel appreciated for that. And then they want to do more of that to make you feel good. Treat your assistant the same way. I mean, it's a partnership. It's not an assistant. And all of my assistants have always been partners to me. And because there's that way of looking at it, it causes our relationship to evolve faster, and their ability to contribute to my life to happen in a more meaningful way. The other thing I would say is about expectation setting. So in all of my job ads, one of the things is anything possible to make Keri Shull's life easier, which sounds funny, but it's true. Like if my car breaks down, I'm Ubering the hell out of there and somebody else is going to deal with that, which may sound unfair, but ultimately my time is worth the most in the company, and everybody understands that coming in. which means they're willing to pick up the gap or the help with anything I need because they recognize that by freeing up my time, I'm going to help the organization make more money and we're all going to be more successful.
How do you convey that without sounding like on a high horse?
Just matter of factly, like I just conveyed it right then.
Okay.
And that's true when that's true when I'm hiring a nanny. That's true when I'm hiring an assistant, and it's true when I'm hiring a marketing director. Because if anyone on my company or on my team has the attitude like that's not my job, then they're not the right fit.
Team players, and I guess it's the confidence that you're exuding as well. It's funny that we're talking about this because Keri and I and all podcast guests, we kind of brainstorm before we start these and talk. What are we going to talk about? And lo and behold, you always just start on something and then we just roll with it. And this is fascinating because this topic is prevalent in my business too. And it's not just hiring an assistant, it's investing in your business, right? I mean, I just had a staff meeting this morning with my salespeople. And for lack of a better term, I'm like the big brother saying, guys, you have all these resources and you're not using them. And a lot of it is, and we're talking sometimes like about incorporating, just for example, BombBomb. Hey, we got a deal as a company for $30 a month. Well, I just need to close a couple more deals. And I'm like, go! And I'm pulling the hair that I don't have out to say, you've got to invest in your business. And I guess I need to do a better job of conveying it to them. But that's why I interview people like you. And I'm going to be like, listen to this podcast. This is amazing. This is my hero right here.
Yeah. Well, what I would say with that issue specifically, it's about figuring out where they're lacking enrollment. Because something is stopping them and it's not the few more deals. So is it discomfort with video? Is it they don't feel comfortable with the technology? Is that they don't believe it? Is it that they do not themselves yet believe in what's possible if they do it? Like what's really getting in the way? Just like a buyer or seller or anyone that we're dealing with, I guess on the mortgage side, more a buyer, right? Mm-hmm. When you understand what's really in the way from a mindset perspective, then you understand enrollment. And for our team, and there's been a lot of issues. Like we require them to do 3 open houses a month. And I talk to agents all over the country that are like, oh, I never thought of requiring that for my team, or like that like they don't see the value in it. Meanwhile, we're closing tons of deals every single month from doing open houses because it's part of our training, it's part of our culture, it's part of what we do to service our clients. And I think this week so far, we've sold 3 of our own listings internally because of that focus, right? Mm-hmm. So, but if I didn't enroll them in that, which I actually use that as a way of rejecting the wrong people from my team up front. Because if they tell me, oh, I don't really perform while it opens, and I ask nicely and whatever, they're probably not the right fit for my team.
Right. That makes perfect sense. That's awesome. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but this is a powerful topic and I love it. But I want to get more out of you because you're full of brilliance.
Thank you.
So that's probably another topic for another day. And the next time we're together at Mastermind or together at an event, I'm going to pick your brain even more because I need your help. But let's talk about let's talk about 2 things if we've got the time. Number one, you said you're the master at generating leads. I think any real estate agent or mortgage professional wants to know what's her secret. And then 2, I know this because we've talked about it, is what you've tweaked recently with your listing process from Sharon Srivatsa's influence. Sharon's also been on the podcast. Brilliant, great speaker.
Oh, just amazing.
Yes.
You have some amazing guests on your podcast. Your listeners are lucky.
I tell you what, I'm very, very, I always tell people all the time, the podcast is one thing, but getting to interview all these amazing people, I'm so damn lucky, and it's so amazing, and it just lifts me up. So it's it's great. So talk to me. Talk to me first about the leads, and then let's go over to the listing process.
Okay, so leads. I think what's been amazing that I've done and done well is really just listen to what other people are doing that's making them successful in various markets. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and create my own stuff all the time, starting from scratch just takes more time, right? And when you listen to what someone else is doing and you want to help them and are open and you share information with them, in return, they share with you. So I have just listened to people all over the country, put myself in the right rooms, and then copied what they're doing almost exactly, Maybe I've made small tweaks for my market. My price point on average is about $658,000.
Wow.
Actually, it is $658,000 for me on the buy side. On the list side, it's about $720,000. So when you bear that in mind, some of the stuff I'm copying is for an average buyer that's in the 200s or in the 400s, and I might need to make some adjustments to make it match my market and my client. But ultimately, I have looked at the situation in the last few years, and I've been very aware that Zillow's business model is shifting. About 2.5, 3 years ago, I was doing Zillow leads, right? And they were one of my most successful conversion sources, even Commissions Inc. So I think I've stayed ahead of what's coming, and that's been extremely powerful.
That's smart.
I did Commissions Inc. when it first started. I sat down with Dwayne Legate at a conference again because I was in the right room and got involved in Commissions Inc. and was one of the early adapters. And we made a lot of money from Commissions Inc. over the years and generated a lot of leads. But ultimately, what I saw is that the price range was trending down. So I studied my numbers for each lead source, which everybody out there, you have to figure out the system for doing this. And it gets harder as you get bigger, right? But what I saw is the price range was trending down. The number of leads and the cost per lead was the cost per lead trending up. And it was taking more leads to convert for us because the quality of the leads was reducing. And so the year that we decided to stop Commissions Inc. bandwagon, but I didn't like what I saw out of the numbers, right? So for a lot of teams out there, their market was already saturated. Too many people were using Commissions Inc. and then they adapted, right? So I've always tried to focus on how to be there first. The year that Facebook ads was started, I spent $21,000 on Facebook ads, right? I just found out, okay, what are people doing all over the country and how do I do that? And so $21,000 to me now in my business, I'm spending that per month on some lead sources. Zillow being one of them. I was spending a lot of money per month on Zillow and seeing that those leads were converting better. But recently they pulled the rug out from under us in our market. They changed and they increased the price per lead by 5 times.
Oh, wow.
5 times, right? So I look at the numbers. I'm spending $2,900 per closing on Zillow right now. And to give you information further, and I'm a numbers person, you can tell, not because it's natural to me, because it's absolutely necessary to run a big, smart business. So we've closed 63 deals so far year to date on Zillow. And we're spending $2,900 per closing, not per lead, about $119 per lead. So when you look at that, in order to become a master at lead generation, you have to know your numbers and you have to be testing. How do I add multiple pillars to my business? So direct mail, as an example, is a pillar that I personally focused on. I segmented a list and I've called it my teardown program for years. I actually focused on the homes that would need massive renovation or to be torn down. And I contacted that list of people via direct mail and said, hey, I have a builder that wants to buy your home. The result of that is I got to put those deals together often so that I would get both sides of the transaction. One person on my team would represent the seller and one would represent the buyer, so you understand the logistics of it and you don't have to deal with the same issue of dual representation. And then we would get the outsell for the builder, which often when we were coming into our market, because again, I've only really been in this business for 10 years. So when you think about it, we've been number 1 in Virginia for 3 years. The way that we developed such speed in getting market share is that we were able to bring the buyer and seller together in our segment. And then we got the high-end listings, which caused us to be able to start marketing around those to get the high-end listings there as well. So I'm talking about a traditional technique that I use with direct mail, but you can apply that to any kind of marketing, right? You can apply it to social and digital. And if you're just trying to segment a market and then have the solution for that segmentation and be able to get multiple transactions out of it, that's the perfect place to focus.
Let me simplify this for what I'm hearing you say. And as I talk as I'm speaking to the listener here, is that Keri, number 1, invests in her own education. She surrounds herself with people that are more successful and better than she is. And then she intentionally stays out ahead. She sees what's happening. she has the foresight, you do probably take risks, and you stay out ahead. You're forward thinking. And God, if I had a nickel for every time I've said that to people, and and again, that's why you are so successful. That's probably why I'm in where I am, because we take those risks, we jump out ahead. But we're not teaching rocket science here, right? It's just do those. I just totally dumbed that down. What you said was super complicated and over most people's head.
I'm sorry.
but I mean, I get it. But the reality is that, like I said, dumbing it down to the basics, that's what you're doing. That's really what you're doing. And then you're just getting creative and saying, like you said, I mean, going to the teardown. I mean, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I bet you if you talk to 100 agents, 98 of them will be like, oh God, I never thought of that. But that's not to isolate that as the only strategy. The point is you thought outside the box.
Well, so here's the next level of that. And I have not talked about this ever publicly.
Yes.
But I'm giving you guys a nugget here, and I'm going to try not to talk. I'm going to try and really simplify it. So digital strategy, we're taking that same segmentation, the people who we know have lived in their houses for a long time. We have a list of 20,000 addresses that match. And so we actually went to a company and said, what if we want to purchase the IP addresses for these people? How much would it cost for us to get in front of this segment with the same messaging digitally every day for a month? So the teardown program, when we do it, we do 3 drops in a row, which that's a critical piece to direct mail. You have to have, just like television, radio, like any advertising source, you have to hit people multiple times or it's not as meaningful to them. So a lot of agents out there are doing 1 drop a month. In my experience, that's not going to work very well. But if you do 3 drops at once and then you pause for 90 days and then you do 3 drops, we get calls on the 3rd drop. So that's on the teardown piece. But when you apply that to what we're thinking of doing digitally, we will actually save $15,000 a month. And instead of getting in front of them one time for that expense, we actually spend, it's about 65 cents. So I'm rounding, but about $20,000 per drop, right? Let's say 14,000, right? But then we have to do that drop 3 times to make it work. So 38, 42 grand. Okay. When I tried to purchase the IP addresses for that same target audience, I can purchase them for $5,400 a month. Now, I don't get to keep them. It's a company that will get in front of them, but I get a message in front of those people every single day when they're on the internet for 30 days for $5,400. So when you think about the cost savings, $42,000 for 3 touches versus touching them every day for $5,000, it's mind blowing, right?
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And that is, that I just want to put the mind blowing emoji on the screen right now.
I hope that helps somebody out there.
It will. Absolutely it will. And I appreciate that. So, okay. So let's, that's topic number 2 that we could probably talk about for 2 hours. But let's give them a taste of how you've taken Sharon, and anybody who knows me knows he's one of my heroes currently. Right, all of us, right? And so I personally, in my market, we took the $1 billion listing presentation and kind of tweaked it. In fact, there it is on my board behind me.
Nice, I love it.
So we use
you're
it.
Amazing. You were an executor.
That's key. That's right. But so we use it. I use it. We use it for our real estate agents. It's like you call and you set an appointment, and I'm giving away our secrets here, but you basically shoot a text with your picture in front of it, right, and say, hey, I was strategizing for a meeting tomorrow, and guess what reply you get every single time? Oh my gosh, nobody ever does that. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Such a basic principle. That's me. Now I bet you're kicking my ass. So tell us what you did with what Sharon taught you.
Well, you've applied it to a different business.
Correct.
Right? So that's really cool because you took the information, you figured out how to make it work for you. So for real estate agents that are out there, I'm just going to boil it down to a couple of points. Sharon does a 2-day presentation on the listing process, but I'll tell you, since we came back, basically I'm sitting in the room. I think, we're number 1 in Virginia. We're pretty good at what we do. I'm pretty confident in our listing process. And I'm sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into my chair and thinking, this guy would annihilate me. I can never beat him, right? And so I went back, I shared the video with my team. I said, who would win? They all watched it. They went, not me. So we just tore our listing process to shreds and we started over. And the key things that we shifted are the first thing up front, we send a link. And this is all out of Sharon's playbook here. He says, send a link and retarget the crap out of those people before you meet with them, because people want to do business with agents that they know, like, and trust. And by having them see you and get in front of them, they already trust you more than someone else. So you know exactly who you're going to be meeting with, and you have a few days to get in front of them. Follow them everywhere on the internet. And when it comes to using pixels and how to leverage your digital strategy, we have an entire course on that, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I do is trainings for real estate agents, because they struggle with how do we execute on all of these ideas that are beyond our scope. So for me, with my team, I met with Gary Vanderchuk about 90 days ago and dramatically upped my game. I'm like, all right, I need to hire the right people. I need to have experts in my company so I'm not outsourcing some of these critical things. But for most real estate agents, they don't have the business to hire 8 full-time marketing people. Like, I have a copywriter, I have a coder, I have somebody who's done a lot of sales funnels in the past, digital marketing specialist, and a social media specialist. So for people out there that want the really quick, bite-sized chunks, it's easy to put a pixel on a website. You can learn that from watching our course on how to do it. But if you do that and you follow the people around, most of the time, by the time you get in the door, you've already won. Okay? So the other thing, a lot of people do a pre-list package. Sharon teaches, change it up and do a sticker that says, do not open until, and then the date of your appointment, and drop it on their door. Well, we started doing that instead of the pre-list packet. And it builds interest, right? Then he teaches about resequencing the appointment. This is the most critical technique that I can talk about. Like, it is huge. So we used to do the, hi, how are you? Let's see your house, go on a nice tour. And that's when you're building rapport and you're showing them how much you love their home and blah, blah, blah. Sharon says, throw that out. Instead, focus on first building what he calls mechanical rapport, which is because you're an expert. He says no one hires an attorney because they walk around their house and say, I like the chandelier, what a beautiful paint color, and a bunch of crap. Oh, you like aspen? I like aspen. Like, you're building this false sense of rapport. And for those of you that, that's how you do business because you're a really high eye, I totally get that, but you're going to tap out at a certain point because your commission is negotiable. You are a commodity and you're not an expert. And so what he's training us to do is focus on building rapport through the eyes of mechanical rapport as more of an expert in the business. When you do that, your commission is not at risk in the same way, and you're not like everybody else. Everybody comes in the house and goes and sees it. So instead, our line is, where can we sit down and strategize about getting your home sold? Okay? Then you go right into the meeting with them, and you focus on demonstrating, not telling them, here's the marketing I'm going to do, here's my 72-point plan, but you demonstrate how you do what you do. And another big key is we have inside salespeople. If you don't have inside salespeople, you would need to plan ahead with a partner, with somebody. But we do a live demo where we put a lead into the internet, and then boom, we get a call back instantly so we can show the seller how on top of it our team is at calling back. And that's just our standard practice. But instead, we used to tell them about it. And Sharon says, throw that out, show them, right? If then other people are in the living room, they're not showing them. So that's another piece of what we're doing. And then the last thing I would say is just, we used to have this boring slideshow, right, that we went through where we were talking all about us. And he really has shifted our mindset to focus on them and focus on the right buyer they believe for their home. And then when you're demonstrating all that marketing, you're showing them how you're going to target that right buyer. And that changes the mindset. So those are just a couple of the techniques. For us, it has doubled our listing conversion.
That is amazing. Do you guys ever say, I'm going to bring you an offer that you want, at a price that you want, at the terms that you want?
All the time. Yes.
I love it.
We do.
I love it. And Sharon just beats that into our heads. Yes. I've got it written on my board. I actually had to turn around and look at it, but I wrote it down just because it's so good. I love to just stare at it sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the clients, what we've realized is they just feel differently about us. And then one other quick tip, we just executed on this. So then I said, okay, everything he taught us is brilliant. He had 1 hour for 2 days of information. So where else can we apply dramatic demonstration to the rest of our process to change it? So now when my listing managers are putting the listing into the system, they shoot a video. They actually show themselves putting it in, and they explain the common things that come up as an objection or concern. So as an example, in the MLS, you only have a limited number of characters, and your clients see that you've shortened words, or maybe you didn't mention that the park down the street has a tennis court. They think that's important, and why didn't you put it in? And you don't really care, right? So they make up these stories about your lack of attention to this or that. And really, it's just because of the constraints in the system. So the way that we do it now, they get to see it and they're explaining. And they also get upset sometimes because the listing goes live and they don't see it on Zillow, right? Or they don't see it on Redfin, or, oh, why didn't you put it on here? Well, we're explaining in that video, this is the button for syndication. We went ahead and clicked it. And so now we have to wait for the third-party websites to update so they receive the information. But as soon as they do, because this button is clicked, it's going to show up, right? So then they have more confidence. So we took that principle of dramatic demonstration, and yesterday we were competing with another agent. And so we've always believed in just being very transparent and sending the behind-the-scenes facts. So we said, all right, if we're competing with another agent, instead of just showing the links, why don't we walk them through how we do the research about the other agent versus our team? So we videoed it all. We just talked to the client. We said, listen, this is a difficult thing when you're comparing two agents, and unfortunately, you don't have the information that we do. We wish you did, so you could do all the research yourself, but we wanted to take the time to walk you through. And in this case, we were competing for a $1.3 million listing. The other team sold $1 million listing to our 40. Okay? So 1 to 40.
Powerful.
So they had decided on the other team. We sent them this video and they said, okay, we're not going to move forward with the other team. When can you guys come out? Wow. So pretty dramatic use of that demonstration. And we gave a lot of honor to the other team. They're an incredible team. They're just not focused on the price point of your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And let's look at that.
So good. So good. And I mean, again, you're executing at a super high level. And again, just kind of dumbing it down for the listener. It's like, well, number one, if you didn't know who Keri Shull was before today, you need to go stalk her. You need to go follow her. You need to learn from her. She has a lot to offer. She's a giver, right? I mean, you're creating a coaching program, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I am. Yeah. So what we're doing, I'll explain how it works, because a lot of people, I've been involved because I'm so focused on being in the right room and surrounding myself with the right people. I've been involved in a lot of coaching programs. Craig Proctor is where I started. I was at the core for a little while. I still coach with Ken Goodfellow. He's amazing. I have a call with him on Friday. I'm a big fan of Closing Table. I learn a lot from being in that room. And so I thought there's all these people around the country that, for whatever reason, I'm pregnant with my third child. Like, I get it. People have families, they have commitments. If they're a solo agent or they have a small team, they're still very much in the business. So how can they travel around the way that I do to be in the right room? So I created an inner circle. It's very inexpensive. It's only $40 a month, where people get access to me and they can learn from everything that I'm learning. I do small videos every day where if I'm at an event, I'm like, hey, here's what I just learned from Sharon today. Like, mind-blowing stuff, right? And then once they have access to that, if they decide this is really helping me and I want to go to the next level, we have a VIP inner circle. And for people who do that, they get access to the same courses that I use to train my team. So I am huge on training. If you don't train, you're not arming your people to be successful. But the problem that most real estate agents have, me building out my training program took about a year of my life, right? And I videoed it all and I chunked it down and I created quizzes and I created handouts and I created all of these materials to help my people succeed. And my agents are some of the most successful agents in the country on their own. My top producer will do about $45 million this year. Okay.
Wow.
So when you think about it, how do we consistently get people who are making $250,000 after their first year? Well, we hire really talented people, but we also train them to be amazing. And so that's what you get when you join the VIP circle. You get the VIP inner circle. You get access to everything that I'm producing for my own team.
That's awesome. So again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can learn from one of the best. And for a fraction of the cost that she's investing, and I know because we're in the same group, you can learn everything. And I have to wrap this up because we're running short on time. I know you've got somewhere to run to. I want you to plug the events you have coming up with Grant Cardone on December the 7th. Plug it.
Okay. So Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk is what kind of started me on this process of, okay, how do I've always surrounded myself with the right people in the real estate room, but if I want to go to the next level with digital marketing and sales coaching, how do I do that? So Grant Cardone just blows my mind. He's the #1 sales coach in the world. So I said, well, if I'm going to do this event and I want to give back to agents and I want agents to be able to control their destiny and not rely on Zillow or anyone else, how do I put them in the right room to do that? And so that's how I built the conference. Grant Cardone's going to be there, obviously. And then Tristan and Nick are doing a course called the Automated Agent. They're teaching you how to bring more technology to your business. And I watch some of the things that Tristan is doing, and it's mind-blowing, right? He has people who are going into a funnel, and then they're just booking an appointment coming out the other end on his calendar. I'm like, wow, okay.
And that's Tristan Ahumada and Nick Baldwin of Lab Coat Agents.
Yes. And then I have G coming in from Waialopo. Are you guys familiar with Waialopo?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they are doing some of the most incredible retargeting. And imagine for a moment that you had the opportunity to follow people around with the houses that they're looking for in their Facebook feed. Numbers tell us people are spending 2 to 3 hours a day on Facebook, where they used to spend watching TV. Now they're engaging socially. So this is a system that is probably the most brilliant use of digital marketing and social combined I've ever seen. And I'm going to do a personal session where I sit down with G at the event and I just help pick his brain so that all of the agents out there can learn what they need to do to dominate social quickly, and that they can do it on their own or through Waialopo. Either way, but they have the techniques and they have the steps. Awesome. So it's on December 7th, the day before, and it's hyper fast sales boot camp. So we'll put the information in the comments. I'm sure that Jeff can add that for you guys. It's going to be an incredible event. I promise you're going to learn a ton. The day before, for people who do the VIP, you actually get to come to my office and do a tour. You get to interview anyone on my team. So if you're struggling with how do I hire an inside sales department, or if your focus is how do I get my buyer's agents to do X or Y, or to take the next level of accountability in their business, you can talk to my buyer's agents, you can talk to me, you can talk to our sales manager. It's a complete open door. And then afterwards, we're heading over to my house to do a fireside chat with some of the industry leaders from across the country that are flying in. So I couldn't be more excited.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. So, okay, give us the website to register. Is the website?
Hyper Fast Sales Bootcamp. Okay. And if you go on there, you're going to get all of the information, the various options. At first, it's not going to give you the option to do the VIP, but you'll get prompted after you purchase your ticket to upgrade to the VIP. If you're interested in that, you also get a personal picture with Grant Cardone.
Oh, cool. So cool. I mean, listen to this gal. She's hanging out with Gary Vaynerchuk, now Grant Cardone. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. I tell you what, unfortunately, actually, let me retract there. Remember what she said? So if you think, oh, this woman is just superhuman, she has 2 young children and 1 on the way. Just try to give me an excuse of why you can't perform at a higher level. That's ridiculous. Keri, you are one of my new heroes. I'm just going to tell you right now. I totally stalk you and follow you. You're amazing. I can't wait to share this podcast. I can't wait to pump it out even more to our SOI. I'm hopeful that maybe, LCA 1 is coming to St. Louis January 8th. We're hopeful that you can come to that. If not, we'll do something at another time because I know you're going to have
January 8th. I'm like 99% sure I will be there.
Yes.
So I can't wait.
Did you hear that? Okay. So first of all, if you're not going to be there. You need to go to the hyper fast sales boot camp. But how about go to both? Because that one is killer. The LCA one is going to be probably killer, but it doesn't have Grant Cardone there. So although we'll be cool, not quite that cool. Keri, is if somebody wants to find you, get a hold of you, if they can't go to the boot camp, but they still want to reach out to you, is there a way that they can find you?
Absolutely. You can find me anywhere on social. It's super easy. And also my email is just Keri@KeriShullTeam.com.
Phenomenal. I really, really appreciate your time. I know we went a little long today, but this has been fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. So again, if you like this podcast, please, please, please share it with your friends. Get the word out. We just want to give because that's what this world is all about. And Keri Shull is exemplary of that. And we thank you so, so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Bye, you guys.
If you're looking to elevate your business, aligned with continual innovation and evolution, Jeff wants to talk to you. Go to FitzerMortgageTeam.com and connect with him today.